Hi everyone, hope you're all doing good, having a good season so far. I wanted to make a quick video to talk about stick lengths. I get a lot of messages asking like what size stick should I be using? Is my young goalie stick too big or too small? What size stick should they be using? And you can answer that in a message, but it's often difficult to explain why. So I thought I'd do a video here just to break down and demonstrate why certain stick lengths are important and why a stick can be considered too short or in most cases too big. So we're just going to be breaking that down. I'm going to be using a few different size sticks to explain why a stick that's too short or too large can actually hamper a goalie in the crease. So the first thing I want to do is to break a bit of a misconception about goalies having their stick in the air and their stick needs to be long enough so that the stick's always on the floor. It's not the case, especially in the modern game. You'll see a lot of NHL goalies, a lot of pro goalies, especially when the puck's up near the blue line now, their hands are going to be nice and high, so they're staying tall, so they've got maximum vision when the puck's moving around the top end of the zone. If the puck's up that high, goalie does not need to have their stick down on the ice. So that's the first misconception about stick length, is that my stick's too short because it's never touching the ice. It's all about technique and using the stick where most appropriate in that respect. So yes, as the play comes in, we're then going to set ourselves and the stick will come to the ice. But the puck's up nice and high, the goalie is going to be nice and tall, the stick doesn't need to be anywhere near the floor because you want your height, you want to have your vision. So now let's talk about height and how that relates to what length of a stick that the goalie should be using. I'm using a 25-inch stick here. I'm 5'8" off skates, so I'm in between a 24 and a 25-inch stick. I just find that the 25 just helps my hands sit properly where they should be, but I could quite easily use a 24 as well and be sort of quite comfortable there. So for a 24-inch stick is perfect for goalies between 5'6" and 5'8". 25-inch stick, we're looking at goalies between 5'8" and 5'10". There's a bit of personal preference around that as well. I'm not saying that's a strict rule across all goalies, but generally speaking, if you're under 5'9", you don't need to be using a 26 or especially a 27-inch stick. That'll just put your hands all out of position, which we're going to demonstrate for you in just a second. So in stance here, normal stance, your hand should be roughly level. And if your stick's too high, which I'll demonstrate with the 27 in a minute, it's going to bring your hands up and expose some gaps under the arms. If the stick's too short, you'll probably find that it's either not on the floor at all or that your hands are out and you're losing height through the shoulders there and finding yourself really hunched over to get the stick on the ice. We'll demonstrate both of these things in just a second. So as we go into butterfly as well, hand position is obviously very important, as is shoulder height. So with a correctly sized stick, you should be able to seal the gaps between the arms and the body, the stick about 12 inches in front of you, and the chest and shoulders still nice and high there. So as you can see there, obviously I'm demonstrating this for the camera. I've got time to make it perfect, but that's roughly a solid sort of blocking pose for a butterfly save there. So as we can see from the side angle here, my chest is still nice and tall. My hands are resting just on the tops of the pads there, making sure we're sealing those gaps between the arms and the body. My stick's about 12 inches from the pads, so that any puck that hits the stick is going to ramp straight into my chest for an easy trap. And I've still got good mobility to angle pucks into the corner there. And it's just generally very comfortable and very efficient position to have the stick in. So now I'm going to use a different stick to simulate how a 23-inch stick for me, which by definition is about 1.5 inches too short, how that affects my stance and also how it affects my hands and my posture going into butterfly. So in a stance, obviously when the puck's up nice and high, it doesn't matter because I'm nice and tall anyway, my stick's away from the ice. But as I start to go into stance here, I'm really going to have to come down and lose a lot of height through my chest and my shoulders to make contact with the ice. Or I'm going to have to drive my feet wider, which makes me lose all mobility there. So now if I have to make a cross crease push, my feet are way too far apart to be able to do that. All because my stick's a bit too short and I'm having to hunch over to make contact with the ice there. So we can see now in butterfly with the 23-inch stick that to have that 12-inch gap between the stick and the pads now, I'm having to move my hands out and my shoulders down. So I'm losing height through my shoulders, so I'm giving away the top of the net a bit more, and my hands are further out in front, which is going to create gaps between the arms and the body. So to bring that in, I have to bring my hands there, and now the stick's not on the ice at all. So that renders stick saves pretty much useless. I'm going to get unpredictable rebounds off my leg pads, all because my stick is 1.5 inches too short to have a good posture. So as we can see from the side, to have my hands in the right place, the stick is completely off the ice. So it's completely redundant. It's not helping me out at all. To put the stick in the right place, I need to lose my hand and my shoulder posture. So I'm now giving up space over my shoulders and the top half of the net. So now we're going to have a look at a 27-inch stick, which is about 2.5 inches too big for me. And I'm going to do my best to demonstrate how that can create problems, especially with hand positioning, blocker positioning, as the play starts to come closer to the net. So as we mentioned before, when the puck's up near the blue line, it's not an issue because we're nice and tall. The stick's off the ice anyway because we're trying to keep good mobility and good vision with good height. But as the play starts to develop, as the threat comes closer to the net, naturally we're going to sink lower into our stance. Stick needs to make contact with the ice. But because the stick is too big to keep it in the right position now, my blocker hand is having to compensate. So to have the stick in the right position, my blocker hand is about 2 or 3 inches higher than it needs to be, which exposes a gap between the hand and the body. So as we translate that into the butterfly, to have my hands in the right position, sealing those gaps between my arms and my body, the stick is now about 18 inches away from my body, which renders it pretty much useless for stick saves. So it's either going to ramp the puck up over my shoulder if we angle it this way, or it's going to ramp it into the top of the pads on my shorts for an unpredictable rebound. Or if I bring the stick into the right place, I've now got a big gap under my blocker, which naturally my catcher is going to follow to keep my hands together. So I've now got gaps under my arms for those really embarrassing squeaky goals between the arm and the body, which we want to try and avoid. So looking at it from the side, you can see to have my hands in the right place, my stick is about 18 inches in front of the leg pads, which is pretty redundant for any kind of stick saves. All that's going to do is create unnecessary tips into the leg pads or over my shoulder and make it really difficult to control. To bring the stick into the right place, I need to draw my hands right back, which is now creating gaps between my hands and my body. So just to recap, a goalie's stick size is very important to their performance and their technique on the ice. I know a lot of goalie parents, you love to buy a goalie stick that's a bit too big because they'll grow into it in 6 months' time. All that's doing is hampering their performance and their technique until that stick is the right size for them. So wherever possible, please try and avoid doing that because you're not helping in the long run. 27-inch sticks, unless you're 6 foot plus, you do not need a stick that size. Most goalies in the NHL are 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and they use 25, 26-inch sticks. So the numbers that I'm giving are already allowing a bit of scope for personal preference there, but your 5'6" goalie does not need a 26 or 27-inch stick. It's just all that's doing is screwing up their hand movement. So please try and avoid that. I hope you found this video useful. I'm not here to sort of criticize what size sticks goalies use, but I know there is preference involved there. But I do get a lot of questions about what the appropriate size stick is for a goalie or for parents of goalies. So I hope this has been helpful. If you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And thank you once again for watching.